From this moment on, I am banning myself from buying any more books. There are two reasons for this. The first one is all around me. This is my TBR, and it's out of control. The other reason is that I love and appreciate libraries, but I also don't. I love them on paper, I love what libraries do for the community, I love what they stand for, but I don't personally appreciate them enough. I don't visit the library often enough. More on that in a sec. First of all, just look at this. Everything you see around/behind me is my to-be-read pile. But it's not a pile. There are 5 stacks of books here. And I need to get this under control. To my right are 2 stacks of hardbacks. This is my hardcover TBR. And to my left are 3 stacks of paperbacks. I also have a few review copies left, but it is the end of the year, so new books are kind of few and far between. And this is what I have to contend with. When you spend as much time reading as I do, you kind of think that it's okay to have a lot of books on your TBR, because I read on average about 15 books a month, which means, you know, I'll get through this. So then why, when I look at this, or this, do I see books that I bought 2 years ago, 3 years ago? Why are they still there? What is happening? And it starts to make you feel kind of sad and a little bit weirdly nervous. You feel guilty because in the UK, each paperback costs around £9 or £10. A hardback costs between £12 and £20. You spend that money and then you feel terrible for not using what you've spent your hard-earned money on. I know there's a lot to be said for beauty and aesthetics, and they do look great, and I appreciate that, but they are not decoration. They are literature, and I want to enjoy all of this. But take this for example. Do you see this at the bottom of this pile? This is The City We Became by N.K. Jemisin. I love the works of N.K. Jemisin. I've talked about her a lot. The Broken Earth trilogy is an incredible, astonishing trilogy of fantasy books. And I remember buying this book as soon as it came to paperback. I avoided the hardback. I wanted to get it in paperback. And I did. The day it came to paperback, I bought this. I remember what shop I was in. That was years ago. Why is it still here? But TBRs are also beautiful things. There's a real positive spin you can put on them because they're effectively a land of opportunity. Depending on what kind of a reader you are, you might be someone who sees every new novel, especially if you're a big fan of genre fiction, as a window into a new world, a place that you can escape to. And this is a lot of worlds that I'm surrounded by, and that's gorgeous. A world of worlds of opportunity. And I love that, that's brilliant, but after a while, you kind of go, why haven't I taken the opportunity? With some of them I have. Right here is The Pallbearers Club by Paul Tremblay. He's an American horror author and I love his books. I started this a good few months ago now, and I stopped. Because the print, the text, is really, really small. And I've got shit eyes. It's small because it's a book within a book, and a lot of the pages have hand-drawn annotations around them that are part of the story, so the text is a bit smaller to fit that in, but fucked if I care. It's annoying. So this book sits on my TBR, and now every time I look at it and think, oh, I'd like to read that, I go, but it's gonna hurt my brain. When it comes to the paperbacks, a lot of these were things I found in charity shops, or things that I bought on a whim and I thought, £10 isn't that much money. I'm interested in this, I'll check it out, and then it sits on my TBR and the right time doesn't come along. With the hardbacks, you kind of feel more pressure to get to them. This pile here, I think I'm gonna read it very, very soon. Most of these books here are books that I've talked about and I'm excited to read, and I plan to read them in the next few weeks. So, okay, we'll focus on the hardbacks and we'll get through some of these. And because they're all newer, because they're hardbacks, they just came out, you feel more excited to read them because there's a buzz around them. You've only just checked out the reviews. The hardcovers are gorgeous. People are talking about them on social media. But then eventually that buzz does die down. I bought this book at the start of this year, I think. I got it when it was a brand new hardback. I think it's in paperback now. And I was so excited to check this out. The Mountain in the Sea is a science fiction novel by a scientist, and I was really excited to check it out. The time kind of passed, and here we are. I still haven't read it. The same actually goes for another sci-fi book, a really short one here called Frontier. According to the blurb, this is a queer, found family, Becky Chambers-esque sci-fi novel that I've been excited to read since the day I bought it, and I just haven't, even though it's short. I'm sure you can feel the stress emanating from me right now. I want to get through this, and so I am banning myself from buying books for the next few months at least. And this is a really good time to do it because November, December, barely any new books come out. The same is usually true for January, and then February things start to really ramp up. So maybe I can start buying books again in February or March. But until then, I really need to stop because this needs to be gotten under control. And as I mentioned in a previous video, my finances have dropped a little bit and I'm pretty scared. So I need to take comfort in the fact that I have all of this entertainment at my fingertips. And it's not just entertainment for me as well. This is work. Every book that I buy is a book I can review, is a book I can use to make money. That's how my job works. I'm a book critic. I'm a book blogger. I'm a book YouTuber. So this is weeks upon weeks upon weeks of entertainment and work, and I need to start seeing it that way rather than going, ooh, but there's also that new book that just came out. I need to take stock of what's around me and see the beauty in all of this. Like, look at this. I've talked before when I mentioned fantasy that Chris Wooding is one of my favourite fantasy authors and a criminally underrated writer of an amazing steampunk series called The Ketty J. And this is an enormous, epic fantasy book that he wrote a good while ago. I found it in perfect condition, unread, in a charity shop in London. It was £1 and it's literally perfect, brand new. Haven't read it yet. This will take me at least a week to read, probably 2. That's a lot of time, that's a lot of entertainment, and it's free. I already have it, and I only spent £1 on it. And I love the works of Chris Wooding. I want to promote him more. So I need to read this bloody book. Now I really want to. I've really fired myself up to read this. What is lovely about all of this is the same as what's lovely about a new tattoo, is that you can often remember where you were when you got it. Every tattoo I have on my body, and I've got a lot of them, I can distinctly remember where I was, what I talked about with the artist, what mood I was in, what the weather was like outside. The day you get a tattoo really gets stuck in your brain. It gets tattooed on your brain. And I often find the same is true for books. I often remember what shop I got it from, who I was with when I bought it, that kind of thing, and that's lovely. I picked this up just the other day at a book fair in the Botanic Gardens in Glasgow. I've enjoyed one Christina Henry book before, and I got this for like £2. It's used and it's pre-loved, and I am excited to read it soon. I hope. These two here are quite funny. The Silence of the Girls and the Women of Troy by Pat Barker. The Silence of the Girls I read years ago, but I read it on Kindle. And suddenly, a few months ago, when I was obsessed with Greek mythology, and you kind of go through periods of becoming obsessed or being in the mood for certain things, I was like, yeah, Greek myths, Greek myths. So I read a whole bunch. And I bought these two because I'd read and loved the first one and I haven't yet read the second one. Got them both, thought that they'd look gorgeous together, and they do. Haven't read them. Gotta fix that. This one here, this is Caliban and the Witch. This is a piece of feminist nonfiction by Silvia Federici, a legendary piece of feminist nonfiction. I have wanted to read this book for years. Abigail Thorne has talked about it multiple times on Philosophy Tube, and I was so excited to read it. I was in Brighton a few months ago. I went into the feminist bookshop in Brighton and I talked to them and I asked them if they had a copy. They dug it out and I was so grateful. And I haven't read it. Such a pattern here. So I'm banning myself from buying new books for a little while until I can get through all of this. And then there's my other point, libraries. When I moved to Glasgow, I decided to go get a library card immediately. My local library is stunning, a beautiful old building. I went in, I had a lovely chat with a bunch of queer people that worked there. It was vibrant, it was lovely, the place was full of students. And I thought, yeah, this is everything at my fingertips. I know how libraries work, I've had library cards before. But not for a little while, not when I was in London, and I need to take advantage. I love libraries. I thought of becoming a librarian. I loved my school library. When I was a teacher, I loved the school library there as well. But in so many of the cities and places I've been to, a library will be down the road from a bookshop, and I prefer to go into the bookshop and buy the book and have it and keep it and not worrying about when I need to give it back and keeping it in a nice condition, even though I actually do that anyway. But I'm sick of all that. I'm sick of that attitude. I want to use my local library. I want to talk about it more. I want to promote libraries. Libraries are in danger. Libraries are getting closed, especially in the UK, by the Tories all the time. So I'm going to use mine. Either because one day they might be gone and I want to make the most of it, or because maybe I can play my part and do something in the promotion of libraries. So the next time I want a book, especially if it's not a brand new book, I'm going to get it from the library. A great example is Stephen King. I've been thinking recently about rereading or reading some Stephen King books I haven't read, like Pet Sematary and Carrie, two classics I've never read and really want to. I was in a bookshop just the other day, I saw a copy of Pet Sematary and I thought, oh yeah, okay, I'll grab that now. And I stopped myself and I said, hey, why not get that out of the library? Of all the things in here that will be in the library, Pet Sematary by Stephen King will be there. If it's not, you're not in a rush to read it. You've got other things to read. You've got a TBR. Put in a request, put in an order. When it comes in, read it and then give it back. You're not emotionally attached to Pet Sematary. Get it from the library. And I said all of that to myself. I put it back on the shelf and I left. And I need to start doing that way more often. So, book buying ban. I quit buying books, at least for the next, let's say, 4 months. It'll help me with my finances, it'll help me get through my TBR, and it will encourage me to use and promote and love my local library in the way that we all should. Let's see how we go. Because temptation is a bitch and I give into it a lot. So I'm gonna do my best to try and slowly whittle this list down and enjoy everything that's here that I haven't appreciated until now. And that also goes for my local library. Join me on my journey and subscribe for books.